Hey everybody, Mike Naso here from IPR with the latest on Hurricane Dean, which is rapidly becoming a dangerous hurricane. Let's take a look at the overall basin right now, and you can see we have our two systems. Of course, Hurricane Dean growing larger, certainly going up towards 100 miles an hour later today, I'd guess. And you can see what's left of Aaron moving inland here in the western Gulf, but Dean is the heart of the problem. Here's the latest on Hurricane Dean as of 11 a.m. It was at 13.7, 54.3. Maximum sustained winds were 90 miles an hour, so it's almost a Category 2 hurricane. It's gusting to 110 miles an hour, is moving to the west at 23. Pressure now 979 millibars. Recon will be heading out there, and you can see the forecast later tonight. Approaching the islands as a Category 2. Tomorrow morning, going through the islands as potentially bordering on a major hurricane, and then continuing to be one of those classical Caribbean hurricanes, getting up towards 140 miles an hour at least by the time Monday rolls around, and then impacting the northeastern Yucatan Peninsula as an extremely strong hurricane. If you live in Cozumel, Cancun, even down towards Chetumal and Belize, you'll want to be making your preparations already for what may happen Monday night, Tuesday, from what could potentially even be a Category 5 hurricane with the heat potential out there. Again, it's just too early to tell. However, if you are in Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and Cuba, you want to keep a close eye on it, as well as the track could veer further north or further south, but most likely Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, then the Yucatan will be the area of impact after the islands. The islands come first. Now, looking at the latest visible satellite imagery as the sun comes up, you can see our system now continuing just north of west. And as the sun came up, look at that bubbling. Look at that right around the center, a very small eye. This is a strengthening hurricane and is just a very devastating hurricane, no doubt. And you can see right there at the last image on the loop, convection firing more on the western side, which is where it was trying to fire despite dry air, so it looks like it's getting even stronger, and it could spin up very quickly here with the circulation center. Looking at the latest IR, as mentioned, the dry air has been the one inhibiting factor with the system on the northeast side of it. However, with the recent convective blow-up, it doesn't look like it's going to have much of an impact, and it certainly is starting to get that classical hurricane shape as it continues to intensify. You can see this beautiful RGB image showing the sun hitting it in a very, very favorable high pressure loft, and look at that, that tiny inner core. That's where those winds are now nearly approaching on 100 miles an hour. And keep in mind, with the way advisories are, it really can't go to 95. 95 miles an hour, a very hard thing to get to, so there's a good chance that at least by 5 p.m., if not sooner, this could be at least 100 miles an hour. And again, you can't doubt it being a major hurricane. We do have warnings out for the islands. We have a hurricane warning for Dominica, and we have a hurricane warning for St. Lucia. And these two, we have a hurricane watch for Martinique, which actually looks like it may be heading generally towards Martinique or Dominica up here. And we do have hurricane watches and warnings up there, as well as many tropical storm watches and warnings. You can see the hurricane continuing to approach. And as you look at the this fire image, as they call it, the satellite, you could see how massive the system's becoming. But look at the pattern here. Look how circular as it gets in this very favorable area. Remember, this was the wave that left Africa and didn't look too shabby? Oh, this is becoming a very serious hurricane as it continues to move in here. Now, with regards to the islands, as I mentioned before, it does look like if you're in St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, and Guadeloupe, that's where the hurricane will have the most impact. However, it does look like these two in the middle, which are Dominica and Martinique, are probably the two that will have the most significant landfall probability. And you can see the center down here is already north of the latitude of Barbados, so if you're in Barbados, you're all right. But if you are in St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, and Guadeloupe, and anywhere further north and west, you need to keep a close eye on it and certainly be making your preparations in this area, as this hurricane will come through by tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, very possible. Now, with the model guidance spread, you can see it in here, continuing to keep the system generally west-northwest towards Jamaica. Jamaica, you'll be next in line after Friday, but that'll take a couple of days to move through. You could be dealing with a very extreme hurricane by that time. and then the Cayman Islands. From there, the models start to diverge. Some want to take it more towards, say, Belize and Old Mexico. Others want to take it up towards, say, the GFDL up here towards western Cuba. Now, the whole scenario that is playing out here is where will it go afterwards, and the likelihood is, as it moves into the Caribbean, the ridging above it will be strong enough to push it towards the Yucatan. From there, do we have troughiness that'll weaken the ridge and cause the hurricane to pull towards the western Gulf of Mexico? We just don't know yet. You can see the conditions are very favorable out ahead of it, so it will be a stronger system. So if there is a weakness, it will feel it. However, it's just, I mean, we're talking about a week from now when that would happen. You can see the divergence over the system, very favorable, very intense hurricane, and as it moves closer to the islands, the waters really heat up with the heat potential, and then once it gets out here into the northwestern Caribbean Sea, it could certainly become a Category 4 or even a Category 5 hurricane. The max heat potential and the max potential intensities out there are phenomenal, so we could certainly get a dangerous storm with that. Bottom line here, the islands tomorrow, moving through as likely a Category 2 hurricane, although it could be stronger than that, and it will be strengthening as it's moving through, which means that it'll seem worse than it is. So if you live in the islands or know people who do, make sure they're taking shelter and boarding up and making their final preparations as Hurricane Dean approaches. After that, all eyes will be on Haiti, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, western Cuba, and the Yucatan. Most likely heading towards Jamaica and the Yucatan, but again, it's too early to tell where it'll go after that. But if I was in Texas, northern Mexico, and potentially western Louisiana, I'd be keeping a very close eye on this system already, even though all of the Gulf Coast needs to watch it until it passes your longitude. You can see Tropical Depression Aaron. It came inland this morning as a weak tropical storm, strong depression right around that 35, 40 mile an hour time, or I'm sorry, wind frame rather, and you can see 35 miles an hour, still gusting to 45. There were some decent winds with it, but really nothing significant. Moving to the northwest at 14, so it's not moving slowly, which is the good news. It's speeding along, so that might help lessen the rainfall. 1,006 millibars. You can see the track through here was a west-northwest one into landfall, and that's Dean. Here's Aaron, and you can see the visible there. It's looking still pretty good. I mean, it's a very tenacious system. When these are spinning up as they're striking land, they don't want to spin down quick. I remember Hurricane Claudette 4 years ago in July of '03. 4 years ago, man. As it came on shore as a 90-mile-an-hour hurricane, it spent over 24 hours as a tropical storm. It was still a tropical storm out here. I mean, that's the type of thing, when these systems are spinning up, they take longer to uncoil. And you can see the radar as the rain moved in with the system. It did have some impressive rain rates, and you can see it continues to rain near Austin, San Antonio, Houston, to the north really of where the center has come inland, and we'll continue to see that rain persist. But as I mentioned, it's moving quickly, so we shouldn't really have to deal with it, although behind it there is still some rainfall and moisture to pull in. Again, that's Aaron moving into Texas. Once again, if you're in this area of the Gulf Coast, keep an eye on Hurricane Dean, and especially in the Yucatan and western Cuba. If you're in the Caymans, Jamaica, heading a trip down there, keep a very close eye on this dangerous hurricane. Out in the western Pacific, we have a super typhoon, Sipat, and winds are 160 miles an hour. It's a Category 5, moving north-northwest at 10, expected to slam into Taiwan and then into China, gusting to about 195 miles an hour. And looking at that satellite, I wouldn't doubt if if that's stronger. I mean, look at those cloud tops, look at that tiny eye. Ideal conditions, certainly one of the more horrific typhoons they have seen in the western Pacific in some time. And I wouldn't doubt winds gusting well over 200 miles an hour in the center of that. So I'm Mike Naso from Internet Partnership Radio. Stay tuned to IPR365.com, podweather.com. I'll be back later this evening with another video update as dangerous Hurricane Dean, and 90 miles an hour is pretty nasty, only going to get stronger. It continues to approach the island. Stay tuned to Internet Partnership Radio. As Hurricane Dean bears down on the Caribbean, what should you be doing to prepare for the storm? Internet Partnership Radio will have the latest reports, live coverage, and video updates as Hurricane Dean moves in.
But looking very impressive on satellite. Again, the outflow is really establishing itself on the northern periphery.
If you're in the Yucatan Peninsula or even up on the Gulf Coast, make sure you're ready and keep an eye on this thing because it's going to be a player.
That the hurricane's trying to expand and create its own environment with an upper level ridge of high pressure. So it's starting to fan out and it's getting more circular, and you see that tight comma look that you look for. This thing is definitely has the potential to be a very dangerous hurricane once it enters the Caribbean.
Stay tuned to Internet Partnership Radio and podweather.com for the latest on Hurricane Dean.